Hello, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of the Orchard Report. I am your host, William Trout, and today we're going to be discussing the Buffalo Bills hiring their new head coach, Joe Brady. Let's get into it. Welcome back, everybody. As I said, the Buffalo Bills have hired a new head coach in Joe Brady. He has been the Buffalo Bills offensive coordinator for the past couple years and was a college player at Air Force in 2008 and also a William and Mary wide receiver from 2009 to 2012, which led into his coaching career as linebackers coach at William and Mary from 2013 to 14. Where he moved next to Penn State as a graduate assistant from 15 to 16. Then jumped into the NFL under the Saints as an offensive assistant. And then he went to LSU in 2019, where he was the passing game coordinator and wide receivers coach, where he was able to win the national championship under Ed Orgeron. And then he parlayed that into a offensive coordinator position with the Carolina Panthers under Matt Rule, and that didn't work out so well as that regime did end up getting fired and replaced. But then it put him with the Buffalo Bills and starting in 2022 as the quarterbacks coach. And then, as we know, post Ken Dorsey in 2023, he was hired as the interim offensive coordinator, where he took over for the rest of the season and did a really good job with the team and the offense in general. And then he parlayed that into becoming the full-time offensive coordinator in the 2024 and 2025 seasons, where he led the offense where Josh Allen was MVP. And then this past year, the offense was great in most metrics. So a pretty quick rise, but also a consistent coach who learned under a bunch of really solid names, people like Sean Payton, Ed Orgeron even, um, and then came into the Buffalo Bills the last like 3 or 4 years, has really become a part of the culture and become a part of the success, and it's been a big reason why the offense has been so good. I know we have our moments where we have gripes and things with the play calling, but if you really boil it down and you look at the production and the point output from our team as an offense, you can see that it's a great offense. And if he was one of the guys out that were highly coveted and we were to bring him in, I think everybody would really be excited. But it's just the fact that I think he was a part of the previous regime that maybe didn't get over the hump, that people kind of feel like you're kind of just sticking with the same thing you already know. But we also don't know what percentage of this was McDermott, giving certain decisions when it comes to the offense and things that Joe Brady didn't necessarily have control over. So it'll be interesting to see now that he has the full reins and full autonomy over the organization. Well, at least when it comes to the team in general. How he kind of goes about it and what the changes that will come in the future in the coming days and weeks as he starts to build out his team, his roster, and how he puts his stamp on it. So that is just a background of Joe Brady and about him and what you can expect as far as your new head coach, outside of what you don't already know with him being with the Buffalo Bills, but just some history on him and kind of what got him to this point. He did state that he will continue calling plays as head coach. So as he would call plays as an OC, he's going to do the same thing as head coach. So even when we do bring a new OC in, which I'll talk about later, he will still be calling the plays as head coach. And he didn't really get into specific changes when asked about this during the press conference, but he just kind of emphasized that there will be an alignment between him and Brandon Beane, and said, they're not going to always do the same thing or agree on everything, but they're aligned in what their vision is for this organization. And he really brought the energy. He really made you feel like he's going to bring juice and bring, like I said, just energy to the team and to the organization and to the culture. And I think that's a good thing. Not to say McDermott didn't have that energy, but I do think at times you feel like everybody just was kind of like not stick in the mud, but like they felt like they couldn't do wrong in certain ways around him, where you feel like it's like when your boss walks by and you feel like you got to be quiet. That type of energy. I think Joe Brady is going to kind of bring a different energy of like, I can still be myself. And I know that McDermott talked about that, but it's one thing to say it and another thing to act it out and live it. So I really do think Joe Brady is going to bring that energy and that juice, and I think that will trickle down into the team and to the play on the field. Um, and then you could tell, like I said, a little bit more. You could tell he's just a little bit more laid back, but that he takes the opportunity very seriously. You could tell that he was very calculated in the words that he was saying. Even though he brings that laid back demeanor, you could tell that he really knows how important this moment is, and what he can do to, get over the hump for the Buffalo Bills and what that would mean. So you can really feel that from him when he speaks, especially during his press conference. Of he understands the weight of the responsibility of being the head coach of the Buffalo Bills, and I think he doesn't take that lightly. And I think that's something that we will see in the way he carries himself, and the way that he hires, and the way that we coach on Sundays. So very excited to see that. As someone who admittedly wasn't the most excited when the name was first announced and when it first came out, I was in the thought process of wanting to go outside the organization to get some fresh thoughts and fresh ideas. But after kind of hearing press conferences and everything, I can understand the decision. So I do want to talk about some of the coaches that we did lose throughout this cycle, because obviously losing Sean McDermott, there's going to be a bit of turnover with the coaches and the players. So thus far, we have lost Bobby Badgevich, the defensive coordinator. He is no longer with us. Adam Henry will no longer be the wide receivers coach. Aaron Kromer, the highly lauded offensive line coach, did retire, so we'll have to turn a new door there. And then we also lost Jamil Adai, the defensive backs coach. And then we have made 2 hires. So Pete Carmichael will be the new offensive coordinator under Joe Brady. He was in Denver for a number of years, and then also worked under Sean Payton in New Orleans. And then Pat Meyer will be the offensive line coach to replace Aaron Kromer, and he's been in Pittsburgh for a number of years, and had good success there. We've already started to see some changes under this new regime, and I think it's good to bring in fresh faces and fresh ideas, kind of in line with what I was speaking about earlier, because since we have hit that proverbial playoff wall, it is, I think, nice to bring some different ideas and different ways of doing things in, especially if you're going to keep continuity at the head coaching position. You're just going to hire from within. I think it's best to get outside voices coming in the building and giving you things that you might not have thought about, especially when it comes to personnel and things like that. Because I think that especially at places like the wide receiver position, we need to make changes, and we need to bring some influx of talent, albeit young and old, just because we've seen what we got there, and I don't think it's enough to compete at the highest level. And I know that's the one that everybody likes to call out, but it really is, I think, the most pressing need. I know there's going to be other things. I know we're strapped for cap, and I know that offensive linemen. We've got guards and centers that are going to be free agents, and we're going to need to make decisions there. But at the end of the day, we need guys that can get open and catch the ball, as Josh likes to say. So I'm hoping that they can really hit that hard during this off season, and Brandon Beane can make the necessary changes such that we can start this thing strong under Joe Brady and don't take any steps back, because I think that's the biggest thing. Is we did make a change, and there's obviously going to be a big contrast to the teams of the last few years to what's going to be coming through in 2026. So we really need to work hard to maintain the momentum, but also even surge past that. And I think that's going to be the biggest hurdle, is like maintaining the level of success, game to game and year over year, but also even surging past that in the playoffs and when it really comes down to it, because that was really the Achilles heel of McDermott, is that he was so great during the regular season. He'd drop a few here and there, like ones that were kind of unexplainable, but just as year over year for the 8+ years he was here, he won. during the regular season, and then unfortunately in the off season or in the postseason, just couldn't quite get over the hump in those games. So um, it's going to be kind of hard, and it's going to be something where we got to work hard to maintain that consistency year over year, but then also figuring out what is the tweak and what is the change where we can kind of send it over the top. Is it really the playmaking? Is it the defensive philosophy? You know, things like that. Because I do think we're going to see changes, um, certainly philosophically. So how far are we going to change while also maintaining that consistency and that ability to win those games and put ourselves in a position to be in the playoffs and like we have in the past, and then actually execute and capture those moments and those opportunities to win a championship. So I'm very excited. Um, at first, like I said, I was a little bit bummed just because I was hoping for new ideas and things like that. But at the end of the day, if you make the good hire at head coach and he puts good people around you, which I think Joe Brady is striving to do, um, it can make all the difference. And I think alongside that, I think there's a newfound uh, aggressiveness, or maybe like I think there's a newfound urgency with Brandon Beane, where he knows that he needs to make something happen. He needs to have some aggressiveness such that we're going and we're attacking, and we're going for the gold instead of just trying to keep this year over year success. Because at the end of the day, it's about winning a championship. And I know you don't want to sacrifice year over year success in lieu of just going for one championship. But at the same time, we have Josh Allen for a finite amount of time, and we need to go for it. And it's he's going into year 8. He's not getting any sprier. You know, we need to really do. We really need to just go all in my estimation. And there can be a fine line between you can go all in and still play for the future. You're not going to have to completely hedge your future to do this. But I think that's the play, and I think you be aggressive, and you try to make the most of this new regime and the energy that you'll have coming out of this. Um, so that's my thoughts. Let me know what y'all think in the comments below. I think at the end of the day, this will be an exciting new chapter for the Buffalo Bills. I do think we're still going to be a good team, and I do think still we're going to compete for championships. So let me know if y'all agree. Let me know if y'all think they should have done something different. Let me know who y'all are wanting to see as the different opening positions as far as the coaches. I know that we've already, like I said, we've hired an offensive coordinator and an offensive lineman coach, but there's going to be many more to fill. So let me know what y'all are thinking. Thank y'all so much for supporting the page and the new channel, the Orchard Report. It's been fun to talk Buffalo Bills with y'all and just be able to get my thoughts out there. So I really appreciate y'all taking the time to listen. And thank you again for all the support. Go Bills as always, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks.